All right, welcome to show 82 here. As we're looking behind me, we have the United States map, and we have been from the bottom of the Baja to Arizona to Charlotte, heading to Nevada now. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of things happening. Tonight, Daniel will be doing the show because I will actually be on an American Airlines flight flying out west. So he will handle the show tonight. He'll bring you up to speed on what we've been doing since Baja, the testing that we did since Baja in Arizona over Thanksgiving weekend. We didn't actually stay the whole weekend. We ended up taking off on Saturday, flying back to Charlotte on the red eye Saturday night to be in the office on Sunday to do some more development stuff on the pre-production car. We have been running the wheels off of that thing. Thank God the wheels have stayed on it, which is a good thing. But we do have little things that we are continuing to make changes with, and Daniel will update some of those changes. There's some engine stuff that we've been working on. There's some shifting mechanism stuff because we put this sequential shifter in it, and we're trying to make it the easiest possible way for everybody to shift. There's clutching stuff that we worked on with tap clutch, and a lot of it's just burning miles on the car. Dang it, I'm getting blown up here during this. Sorry about that. Max is giving me a call right now, but you know, as we've been doing this testing and we continue to do more testing, we learn more. For me, I'm sure everybody's saying, release the car, and I want to release that car, but I can only release a reliable car to you guys. If we know that the thing's going to blow up in, you know, in 500 miles or 1,000 miles, we can't deliver you a car like that. So we have been doing a lot of reliability testing, a lot of improvements on reliability. A lot of it has been in the oil pumps and the oil systems and the bearings and the piston coatings and a bunch of these things. And this is stuff we knew we'd have to do once we got to our final engine. And that's where we're at now. And I feel good about the change we're making. We have more new parts showing up this week. We've got some cranks, got some rods, got some pistons, got some cylinder coatings. There's lots of stuff that we've been working on to improve the reliability and the cooling and the performance of the Speed UTV. As I said, Daniel will do the show for you tonight. He'll bring you up to speed on some of the items that we have to adjust on. Some of the stuff you guys know what we had to adjust on from Sandsports, and we'll continue to do that, and we'll keep you guys updated. So I'll turn this now over to Daniel, and as I'm flying, I hope he does a good job. Thank you.
Hey, what's up everyone? Daniel Granger here for another show this week, and just want to give you guys our weekly update. So you just heard from Robby there. As you mentioned, we've been pretty busy the last couple of weeks traveling all around the country. So we missed a live last week, but we'll get you caught up in this one with what we've been up to the last couple of weeks. As you can see here, we had the Baja 1000 the other week, and we've got all of the onboard footage online for you guys to check out. So Rob did a great job putting that together, and there's a lot of data to go through. 4 512 gigabyte cards worth of like 22 hours of footage each. So that was a lot of work put together, but we wanted to share that with you guys. So we'll start off with a little bit of a recap on the 1000. So Robby finished in 7th. And so we had a couple issues with one of the alternate drivers going off the course early on in the race, and I believe he also had a double flat that cost us a little bit of time. You can check all those incidents out in the videos. They're timestamped down below. A little bit entertaining, a little bit sad, but otherwise the truck held up great and did the full 1,200 miles or so. And the other kind of good vibe thing we had at the end there was, unfortunately for Larry, he had a leaking transmission cooler or line somewhere and lost all of his transmission fluid. And Robby came across him stuck out in the middle of nowhere, basically pretty rough terrain, and would have taken his chase team hours and hours to get out there and tow him back. So Robby figured, you know, do the right thing and hook up to him and give him a tow. Max said he had tears in his eyes when Robby stopped over to tie up to his truck and give him a chance of getting back in and finishing at a reasonable time. So there's some good videos of that going around of Robby towing him. Not often you see a couple of trophy trucks chained together going down all the big steps and everything. But that was just a nice thing to do, and they rewarded us handsomely with some beef jerky, which the whole crew is super stoked about. Like I mentioned at the start, we've got the full onboard of the race available on Speed UTV YouTube channel. So there's 4 different camera angles, and Rob cuts back and forth between them, and it's really a cool perspective you don't get to see unless you are in the driver or co-driver seat, really. And just those miles and miles and miles of insane desert terrain definitely makes you feel like you're down there. So on to UTV stuff. Over Thanksgiving weekend, we were out testing in Parker and Havasu area. So we had a couple of the cars out there and just putting on miles to really just check in on reliability, performance, and longevity, and just putting miles on everything and finding any new little issues. And we'll get to you some more details on some of that stuff in just a minute here. So we started with a nice little run out to the Desert Bar. Those of you from around Parker might know that trail. There's basically a couple ways in, and there's some nice kind of tight, little bit rocky desert trails that are still pretty decent speed. And then there's also a gravel road, and it's just insane what these UTVs can do on those types of trails compared to, you know, a Jeep or something like that fully built. We'll go, you know, blowing by these Jeeps and stuff that are just crawling along. It was pretty funny actually. One day we crossed the trail as a guy was trail riding in his Jeep, and his dogs were running along outside, and that's how he walks his dogs. And I made the comment to Robby, it's funny that your trail riding speed is a speed that dogs can keep up with. So the UTVs are just bringing the whole sport to another level of speed, and in my case, just fun, because I like riding fast, like I'm sure a lot of you do, and it's just cool what these guys can do. We also went out and played in the sand there to test that performance, still just on the dirt tires, because we want to make sure how those do in the sand. And we climbed up and down the sand hills and got a little bit of airtime going up and down the hill, and everything worked great, just as we would expect. And then of course the high-speed graded roads out there, out down Shea Road is a pretty awesome loop that you can start out going down the wash, and that's a lot for really good high-speed shock tuning and testing. There's lots of small bumps, but you'll definitely notice them. And then you finish that up on some long sweeping graded roads, and that's a good loop to just put a lot of miles on quite quickly, because all of it's pretty high speed. So we did all of these loops and put a couple hundred miles on, and overall the car held up really well, and we learned a few things, and I'll get into those here just a minute. So one of the things we mentioned on a previous test was we had our oil temperatures were a little bit higher than we'd like. So for this one, we made some adjustments to the oil cooler and how much oil it was flowing through the system and its transfer into the water, because it is a heat exchanger type oil cooler. And happy to report that this test round, all of our temperatures were perfectly in check. The water and oil temperature balanced to each other, was really happy, and the overall temperature was totally in check. So that's good news on that testing front. And then the unfortunate issue that ended our testing weekend, as Robby mentioned, we left on Saturday night, was a pretty minor one, but not one that you would normally expect to encounter. So we had a starter motor go bad, and basically all the other systems were totally fine. But as we dug into it, we realized that on these sample starters that we've been running, this guy on.
Yeah, it timed out. There it is.
All right, thanks, Rob. So basically, there's a couple different terminal styles you can have on starters, either this plate style or like a stud. And so in this case, we've been testing with both, but in this case, it had a stud style terminal. And what we believe happened is that stud came loose at some point, and it actually spun the cable in here, which caused it to have a bad connection. And so we had to replace the starter, and then as soon as we did that, that car was back up and running. But that's something that we've noted and have been having conversations with our starter suppliers about that, just to make sure that they are aware of that issue as well. And the next thing was lesson learned from the testing is we still have probably another couple setups to do on the suspension and shock tuning, just to get it riding just as good as Robby knows it can. We've been experimenting with a few different types of wear bands and materials in there, from some different types of PTFE and bronze and different coatings. And essentially, every change you make there makes a change to the setup. And so we're just finding the right balance of everything. And we know we'll get that dialed in, so we're really not too concerned about that. But just that's another item on our testing to keep going through. And we're excited about that, because these shocks are seriously really impressive with what they're capable of. And then I guess some more parts that we've identified throughout our testing that just need a little bit more tweaks to them. Here's one example. This is basically it's an aircraft Schrader valve that you would normally find on like the wheel of an airplane. So inside it's just like a normal Schrader, but it's got a mechanical lockout essentially to lock out that Schrader valve from actuating, even if the needle gets pressed. And so what the issue we found with this one is, compared to some of the other ones you can get, its stem is a little bit longer and the needle's buried deep inside of it. So we're just needing to make some modifications to the height that needle sits and the overall length, so that it can accept a variety of different air inflation tools, and so you don't have to worry about just the one-off special brand. But these are a pretty tricky little piece, and it's what we've been running on trophy truck shocks for years, and it's just another layer of safety and protection to make sure you get your desired nitrogen charge and you're not losing that throughout the time you're out testing or racing or running around. Another part we've been playing with, the ramps, ramp profile. So Alan and Dave from Tap Clutches have been super great to work with, and they're so knowledgeable on just the most minute details of the profile of the ramp and what that will actually change in your seat of the pants feel, basically. So we've played with a couple different profiles, and we've got one right now where it's super drivable and pretty awesome performance. Alan's got one of his tap clutches on his double X, and riding in that thing compared to a stock clutch is pretty impressive of how well the clutch responds and just grabs. Feels like it's shifting down and grabbing a gear and pulling away, but obviously it's still just a CVT. And so he's got that performance dialed in great. And I have a few other parts on here to talk about that I don't know if we've shown you before. So some of these discs are the torque limiting clutch discs. So you can see some of these here. And how this system works is you alternate your stack up between an externally splined disc and an internally splined disc, and those lock into mating splined couplers, and then the whole stack up is preloaded with these Belleville washers or springs, and basically adjusting the number of friction clutches you have and the preload will change the torque holding capacity. And so that's been something we've been playing with to find the exact threshold where we want this to break loose so that it protects your drivetrain components, but is also not slipping around too easily and leaving you slipping the clutch. So that's been another hot item on our list to just fine tune and dial up and down. It's pretty cool because you can actually change without changing the preload, just by changing the order that you stack these discs in, is change the number of active clutch discs. So that's been a fun one, and the guys at Albans and Weddell have been helping us a lot with that, and helping us get that dialed in, because it's a great safety feature to have built into the driveline of these cars or anything that's going really fast in the desert, because you're obviously, the ground is never flat, and as you're speeding through the whoops, for instance, when your front wheel and rear wheel are coming in and out of contact with the different profiles of the ground, it's actually grabbing your front wheels and speeding them up. And now if you're all locked together in four-wheel drive, that'll create a shock load, and that's going to be taken out on whatever the weakest component is. So what we're trying to do here is know the weakest component and then take this one step before that'll break. So you just slip this clutch instead, and protects the rest of your driveline. So you're not left stranded there with just two-wheel drive or even worse. So another one here is a couple of these fittings on some oil feeds. We've had some issues with the ears breaking off, and it's just a matter of a little bit of a sharp radius and a small profile. So we've got a revision on that part as well that's actually taken us more to an O-ring port style fitting, and I can show you the difference here. But essentially a couple of these ears have snapped off on us during assembly, and we've identified those, and a nicer solution is something like this O-ring port fitting. So we're working with the factory on making a tooling revision to keep that going. And then as what's next, we've got the Mint 400 is happening this week. So as Robby alluded to at the start of the video, he's on a flight out that way. Max will be racing his XX equipped with all speed suspension at the Mint, and he actually he prepped this car himself in Havasu after racing UTV World Championships and doing really well there. It's awesome to see him excited and getting his hands dirty and motivated to build his own race car and maintain it. So he's on the phone with us. He said, "Hey, do I have to check this or check this?" But he's doing the work himself there, of course, with some help from Jason and Lucas and his other buddies down in Havasu. But it's awesome to see him taking that initiative. Yeah, rumor is Sarah's riding with him. I don't know if that'll last too long. And then another exciting surprise news is Robby will be racing the Unicorn in the Mint right after finishing the 1,000. Basically just got a very light prep, just went through CV joints, things like that, and a little buff and polish, and should be ready to go. Yeah, and interestingly, there's going to be a new wrap, new graphics, with no speed for, I don't know if that's the first time since Robby's come out with speed, but stay tuned for a graphics unveiling on a new partnership for this race. So take a look for that. And of course, the El Jefe pre-production car will be out there on display, so you can come check that out. I'm sure it'll be parked over by our merch booth. And we've got lots of tool cases, the Speed Tools race cases out there for anyone who's going to be out there looking for a case, and some more speed hats, speed shirts, all that good stuff. And then next thing we'll be back in the desert doing more running. Like I said, we just got to do a couple of final adjustments on shocks and CVT tuning, and just general reliability performance checks. So we've been putting miles and miles on these cars, and basically every little issue that we're finding, we're documenting and coming up with solutions for. But like I mentioned, after the last test, the only thing was this little terminal on one version of a starter motor. So that wasn't anything too major. And it's just awesome to see the evolution of these cars. You know, we had the 3 on the trailer back to back, and it's just really cool to see where this project has developed in the short time from Sandsports 2019 when we launched that one to our prototype cars, and then of course the pre-production one we're running in right now. And like Robby said, we can't wait to get these cars in your guys' hands, but we just want to do all the steps and all the checks to make sure that we're delivering you the best product we possibly can. And so we appreciate everyone's patience with us as we're working through these final steps just to work out the bugs, and we're hoping to keep you along this journey with us as we're sharing these findings, and can't wait to be out in the desert with you. But until then, Rob's got a little B-roll from our last testing trip, so hang out, watch that, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.